This is Anime Out of Context, a comedy review podcast hosted by a weeb of the highest order, alongside a cynical man who knows nothing about anime. Our show features spoilers, explicit language, and poor fact-checking. Neither of our hosts are experts on any topic, and none of their opinions should be taken as fact. Thank you for listening, and enjoy.
Welcome to Anime Out of Context, the show where I attempt to explain the sometimes weird, sometimes wonderful, but always hilarious world of anime.
And I walk across this barren wasteland just to atone for all of my many sins.
I'm Shaun Rollins.
I'm Remington Chase.
And Remington, that was a little too on the nose of a intro, in my opinion.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah, like, you try to be a little clever with your little intro bits, especially to those who understand what you're referencing, which is only a couple. But
that's where you're wrong, Shaun. I don't have an ounce of clever in me.
You're about to have a fucking cleaver in you if you keep up with the stupid jokes.
Last week I discussed that I was paranoid. I was starting to get worried. Things had been too favorable for too long, and while you said you had no ulterior motives last week, I'm suspicious about that fact. My prediction is that stuff is gonna go really bad either this week or next week, so I'm prepared. I'm ready, as ready as I can ever be. You cannot break me. What are we doing?
Why do you automatically have to assume that I'm trying to... that I'm out to get you?
Because you are! It's not a tinfoil hat wearing situation. You can't be like, oh, he's crazy if the tinfoil hat actually works.
As you really reshape the one you're currently wearing.
Gotta adjust it to be nice and fashionable.
Oh, well, Remington, honestly, I feel like you just have a really poor opinion of me. I may have been trying to set something up that's really nice for you. Have you considered that fact?
The only reason you ever set up nice things for me is in contrast to horrible things for me.
Look, Remington, I've done a lot of things in the past, but that was the past. We're in the present.
Oh, but of course, things have so dramatically changed. You know what, Shaun? Okay, I'm going to briefly, a moment of vulnerability. I'm going to take the tinfoil hat off, keep it to the side, nice and prepared and ready, in case things change, but I'm going to put it off to the side, and I'm going to assume the best in you. I'm going to assume that things are going to go fine this week, that you're not going to completely fuck me over, and that everything is going to be swell. So with that sheer naive optimism within my bosom, I have to ask Shaun, what are we doing this week?
Well, Remington, now that you've finished talking about your bosom, which is not a mental image that I wanted to have today, I figured that we'd take a bit of a sidestep. Go in a bit of a different direction. Because I came across a show recently that I avoided watching when it was first airing because I was like, it doesn't look like my style. And then I watched it. And I have to say, this is a strange and interesting experience, Remington.
Oh, no. The word strange and interesting? No, it's still I'm sure it's because it's just such a groundbreaking, original, and unique experience. Tell me more!
Well, Remington, I've taken your criticisms lately into account, so this week we're going to be doing a short-form anime.
Oh, hell yeah, about time. The less I need to see, the better. Okay, that's a great step in the right direction.
Yep, because a lot of our more cute and comedy-based anime that we've covered recently, you've wanted them to just be more short-form, which is a fair and valid concern for a lot of reasons. So I went ahead and found a recently aired comedy that is, only 12 minutes an episode.
Oh, okay, you know what? Half-length episodes? Sounds good.
Yep, and I searched long and hard, and I came across some rather amusing titles, and I thought that this one would just be the most perfect one to show you, because after all, Remington, it's about science.
I like science. Science is great. I'm a nerd about science. All right. Are we just watching like Weeby Bill Nye?
No, unfortunately. Though I would tear that up. That would be great. That would be
all right.
Ideal.
All right. What exactly? If it's not Weeby Bill Nye, and if it's not Weeby Neil deGrasse Tyson, and if it's not Weeby,
I mean, it has about as much arrogance as Weeby Neil deGrasse Tyson. It feels like sometimes.
Oh no! That's dangerous.
I know it's dangerous, but
that's a lot of arrogance there.
that is a lot of arrogance.
Neil deGrasse Tyson, he's a delightful educator and communicator. Bit of a prick.
And you just need to look at his Twitter feed to really understand that. Like, I remember reading one of his tweets on the leap year, saying that we're not actually leaping, it's or time is changing. And the best response ever was, I wonder if what we could call the sudden jump in time.
Yep.
It's like, Neil, my man, you know, I respect a lot of the stuff you've done, and I love that you love science as much as you do. You don't need to have an opinion on everything.
Yeah, that's our job, clearly. So what are we jumping into? We're discovering some science. Is it an educational show?
Not exactly. It's more like a weeby Jimmy Neutron is how I would describe it.
Okay, you know what? I was down with Jimmy Neutron when I was a young boy. When I was a nice little kid.
Real talk,
Jimmy
though,
Neutron was my jam.
Real talk, though. Have you actually seen, like, screen caps or clips of anything Jimmy Neutron related lately?
Are you talking about the fact that, like, the animation quality has not held up over time?
And the fact that everybody is like a giant bulbous monstrosity that makes me want to scream in the dead of night?
All except for Carl, who still has all of the same glory as he did when I was a child.
It's hard to fuck up round.
Dylan, insert a Carl soundbite for me, please, and thank you.
We're gonna get sued by Nickelodeon. Good work.
It's worth it. It's worth it. So, unfortunately, I imagine this show will not have a Carl Weezer in it.
It does have a ginger.
You know what? Close. It may not have a Carl Weezer, but it at least might have a Shaun Rollins. All right.
Hey, hold on.
I've always viewed you as an older discount Carl.
Oh, okay. That's where we're going. You know, I don't have to show this show to you, Remington. I could pick something else. I mean, I still haven't given you the name. I could just be building up your expectations for something completely different at this point.
Oh, God. All right, wait, what's the title of this show, Shaun?
Well, Remington, the title of this show is, Japanese, is Ueno-san wa Bukiyo.
Oh, completely meaningless to me.
Or the English translation is, How Clumsy You Are, Miss Ueno-san.
Okay.
So basically, Remington,
what?
This is a slice of life, semi-science fiction fantasy comedy show about a brilliant middle school inventor and her wacky inventions that get people into trouble, and a little crush she has on one of her club members.
You know what? This sounds interesting. It sounds like it could actually work.
Mm-hmm. You know, not a bad little concept, and it's short form, so it means it'll have a good amount of chance to do quick, short, punchy, really to the quick type of comedy. And I'm curious to see what you think about it, Remington. There's not really much else to say about it aside from the fact that the comedy in this is very, I would say, eclectic is the good word for it.
Okay, eclectic comedy. And by that, what exactly do you mean, Shaun?
They take things in some very strange routes, and I don't know how to feel about it personally, but that's why I'm showing it to you, Remington, because I want you to help me dissect this.
Is it like Nichijou strange?
No, different flavor.
Is it Forest Fairy 5 strange?
No.
The best flavor.
The worst flavor, Jesus fuck. Yeah, we've actually had people go and try to watch it, and nobody has come back saying anything that you have said about that show.
One sec. I want to do a quick comparison. Since both have been mentioned, I'm going to do a quick Google for Forest Fairy 5 and Jimmy Neutron and see which one looks better.
That's that.
Oh, Christ. All right. Forest Fairy 5, definitely not a looker.
No. It's like the worst Unity project.
Then Jimmy Neutron, also not great, but effort has been put in. I think Jimmy Neutron wins. I thought Forest Fairy 5 might have a chance. It didn't.
No, no, God. No. Like, Remington, Forest Fairy 5 had a budget of, like, a pack of gum and some cigarettes.
Yeah. I want to encourage everyone, because I recognize that the vast majority of our listeners right now, they have not seen Forest Fairy 5. Even if they've heard us talk about it before, they still probably have not seen it. Please, go watch it. It's a masterpiece. It's
not worth it.
Fucking brilliant.
It's not worth it.
It's so good.
I researched it. It's not worth it.
It's one of the best things we've done on the podcast.
patently false.
All right. Quality-wise, obviously, like the worst thing. However, I'm gonna leave with a controversial claim. I enjoyed Forest Fairy 5 more than I enjoyed Spirited Away or Cowboy Bebop. So,
Wow.
those are
Okay.
I recognize Cowboy Bebop I recognize Cowboy Bebop and Spirited Away. Very good anime, very well done. I just didn't enjoy either of them. So, yeah. That's anyway. Back on track to our weeaboo Jimmy Neutron Japanese girl. So I imagine she's gonna get in all sorts of shenanigans. What types of inventions does she do, Shaun?
A lot of robotics, mostly, it seems like. Some fancy some fancy like biological stuff. It's very wild. And I'm sure you will find it to be quite wild. And honestly, man, there's not really much else I can get into. I'm still stewing over that comment you just made.
Don't worry. Hey, Shaun, just like I came in, sometimes you have to put your preconceived notions aside. You have to be optimistic and positive. That's how I was at the start of this episode, and look how it worked out. You just need to do the same and completely disregard the anger and the fury that you feel for me, and we can jump right into things.
You compared some of the greatest anime of all time to one of the worst anime of all time.
And I said that they were objectively better anime that I didn't enjoy as much.
Yeah.
But this isn't the issue at hand, Shaun. Let's not get sidetracked. What we're doing now, we're exploring the very clumsy Miss whatever her face was. I've already forgotten. Let's do it. Let's jump into things, Shaun.
Okay. All right. Let's do it. Son of a bitch-ass whore. All right, let's go jump into a couple episodes of How Clumsy You Are, Miss Ueno. And we are back after consuming 4 whole episodes of How Clumsy You Are, Ueno-san. And Remington, I'm just really curious to see what you have to say about this show, because I feel like you'll have some deep and culturally significant insights that'll really broaden our horizons on the type of anime that I have shown you today.
Well, Shaun, I feel like there were some details that were left out in part 1.
No, I feel like I was pretty accurate with all of my statements.
And, well, as per usual, pretty much accurate. However, there were some bits that you left out. One bit in particular, really, is the intense sexual frustration within this show. Because, oh boy, there's a lot of sexual frustration.
Are you sure you're not just projecting something onto the show that you yourself are feeling, Remington?
I'm pretty confident. Don't get me wrong. I am just as sexually frustrated and morally repressed as anybody else out there. However, this show, it definitely, it's interesting. It's interesting. You were correct in your description earlier.
I mean, Remington, how could I not show you a show that is so clearly inspired by the shows of our childhood?
Well, I mean, you know what? I will accept that, and it certainly also has a Japanese twist to it. Let's jump into it and explain. So, each little 12-minute episode is actually separated into 2 parts, which is every part is just a different invention and a different thing, right? Mm-hmm. The very first one, its opening show is Miss Ueno?
Yep, Ueno.
Cool. Ueno is trying to get the dude who I've forgotten his name.
Oh, that would be Tanaka.
Tanaka. Ueno is trying to get Tanaka to drink her pee.
Yeah.
So that is how the show starts, which is a bold beginning, might I say. It is a strong choice.
But Remington.
Yeah.
How can you truly love someone if you don't drink their pee?
Well, don't get me wrong. If that's your thing, that's your thing. Go for it. I prefer, personally, methods of showing love that are beyond Bear Grylls. That's my preference. But that's the first one. Essentially, Ueno has created a device that what it does is it can purify any liquid, and so she purifies her pee because she really wants him to drink her pee. And
But Remington, that sounds like a wonderful invention. Couldn't that change the fate of the world as a whole?
and it certainly could. I remember that's how we met, trying to get each other to drink each other's pee. However, it was a strong start, and it definitely put up some red flags. The second invention of the first episode is similarly bold, because now Ueno wants him to look up her skirt, because she has a device that will cloud it up with space and time so that if it works, you can't see up a girl's skirt, basically.
I mean, that seems like a pretty valid invention, you know?
It's totally a valid invention. And so she challenges it by taking off her panties and trying to show him and trying to arouse him, even though he can't see anything. All of this time. So obviously you have Ueno, the main girl, who's very sexually frustrated, very intelligent, but also very petty and overdramatic and very neurotic. Then you have the dude. You've told me his name moments ago. Already forgotten it.
Tanaka.
He's the straight man. He's just he's a straight man of this comedic group where anything that happens, he's very nonchalant. They play with that a little bit, and I don't know how I feel. We'll get to that point later. But yeah, I think he's at his best when he's just oblivious and aloof. And then you have, let's see, I wrote their name down somewhere. Yamashita?
Yep.
Yamashita. So, Yamashita, who is, their third, friend in the club, who is very supportive of Ueno.
Yep.
But, like, it's difficult to describe her character. It's very reserved, but very sassy at the same time, which I support. I enjoy that character.
She's like the hybrid straight man. She's straight when she needs to be, but also goofy when it requires it.
Yeah, and she quite a lot does the, like, completely stone-faced throw a joke out there style, which I think totally works. Anyway, so with this show, immediately in the first episode, you can tell that it's quick, it's punchy, it really works with the half length, even more so because it's then cut in half once more. Nothing really overstays its welcome. All the jokes are quick and out there. And I think it knew what style it was going for, and it did that style decently well. In the second episode, let's see. What was the inventions of the second episode?
One of them was protective padding, if I remember correctly, was the way they phrased it.
Yeah. So
And the first one was, oh goodness, what was it? They were all so wild and crazy that they all kind of blend together. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, it was the purification machine, the anti-smell one.
Oh yeah, so in episode 2, you get a purification. This one doesn't purify water; it purifies smells, and this is all just so that Ueno can get the man of her dreams to smell her tights. And basically, it's a very Acme-like system. Is what this show is. It's so much like Acme because you got Wile E. Coyote, in this case Ueno, and constantly coming up with new schemes, new inventions, new shenanigans that are always so convoluted and just never work, or at least not the way that she wants them to. And I mean, that's a good formula, and it fits that formula surprisingly well, even at times where it definitely is a little bit weird. I'll be honest, with the sexual frustration, I've struggled to make a strong verdict on it, and I think I came to a conclusion, but we'll save the conclusion for a little bit later.
Okay.
But then after the purification smeller, then you end up getting the
this is the protective padding.
The protective
is, I believe,
padding,
the way they phrased it.
The protective padding. And this one, it had quite a bit of comedy within it, because essentially she turns it into a bra so that he can look at her boobs, and she can be like, you're looking at my boobs, and then potentially touch her boobs. And it's very, like, this is just like any 14-year-old's harebrained schemes. Like, that's sort of what's going on
It's
here.
like an anime Ed, and Eddie, it feels
Yeah. Well, you know what this is, Shaun? What this show is, so we already discussed Jimmy Neutron, right? And then you take sort of a Love is War or the Teasing Master Takagi-san?
Correct.
Hey, so Jimmy Neutron, Teasing Master Takagi-san, and then mix it with Johnny Bravo. And when you mix it with Johnny Bravo, it all makes sense.
I don't know what you're trying to say.
Because I mean, just because of the sexual frustration in a weird children's medium that doesn't quite make sense, but still sort of works. And so, so 2 episodes in, it's still working, even though it's still very, very weird. I think one of the reasons why this works, and I started to realize this in the 3rd episode, was that usually the punchline to all of these like sexually frustrated and even like sexual things isn't, oh wow, hey audience, isn't that pretty sexy? Or at least it's not just that. Occasionally it does border on that. But usually it actually utilizes the sexual frustration for sincere comedy, not just for, oh yeah, that's hot. And that usually we don't see that. We've seen a lot of attempted quote unquote romantic comedies on this podcast, and most of them have, like so often you get the punchline of, oh wow, isn't that an awkward, sexy situation they find themselves in, right? Usually when you get a peeping Tom or walking in on somebody while they are bathing or something like that. Very, very common.
Your typical lucky pervert scenario.
Exactly. And with that, like they try to play it off as a joke of like, oh, how crazy, oh boy, oh, isn't that wild? But really they just want to like show off fan service, and that is like 99% the reason. And while that may be a small reason within this show, it is definitely not the primary reason, or at least it's not presented as it, because yeah, there's a whole lot of sexual frustration and innuendo. It's very aware of that, and it will make that known. However, the comedy within the show, it utilizes that without solely being about that. And I commend that. It's different. It's not just to titillate the audience. It's actually to make them laugh. It's actual comedy. It's actual jokes and premises that have a payoff. And I just appreciate that because it's the single best use of sexual frustration in comedy that we've seen in anime. And boy, have we seen a lot of that.
Wow, okay. I'll be honest, Rem, I was not expecting you to actually have this many good things to say about it.
I mean, frankly, I'm a little bit surprised myself because once again, strong red flags early on. But the characters are strong and interesting. I like how delightfully petty Ueno is about literally everything. And they just utilize that so well. Yamashita is just a bundle of stone-faced sarcasm and deadpan comedy. Meanwhile, Tanaka?
Yep, Tanaka.
Tanaka is really nice and aloof. There is a weird exception to that when, namely, it's in the episode we talked about, like, the protective padding, because he guesses that it's on her butt and he ends up spanking her a whole lot, and you sort of see evil Tanaka, and I think it was genuinely humorous, the scene, but it just sort of felt incongruent with Tanaka. And don't get me wrong, I know that I'm the guy who's commonly said just, oh, I need some complex stories into these silly comedies. That's not what I'm asking. It's almost never what I'm asking. It was just a very minor gripe of weird character inconsistency that I think can dilute the comedy a little bit, but it was still a generally funny scene. You get very strong reactions. The characters are very expressive, especially Ueno. And just overall, it's pretty solid. In episodes 3 and 4, you get other inventions, like one that can essentially censor in person any naughty bits.
Yes, the God Ray effect as the impossible light.
Yeah.
Yes.
Then you get Robo Ueno, which was a fun one, which then tries to sort of just like falls in love with Tanaka just as much, and a couple others that I can't remember right now. Shaun, if you want to list them, you are free to.
Nah, I think I'll leave it to folks who actually want to watch the show.
Cool, because
that's part of the surprise after all.
Yeah, like every episode, it has a nice gimmick of what's the premise? And I argued, I remember way back when we talked about Love is War, I mentioned how it had a wildly fascinating premise, but it was at its best when it was not following its premise because it under-delivered on its premise and over-delivered on other qualities, right? And so I feel basically the exact opposite with Ueno. With Ueno, you have a show that has a strong gimmick, like every single thing, there's going to be an invention, she's it's usually based in her sexual frustration, and from that, she's going to try and fail to seduce it. Very Acme, Wile E. Coyote system, and it works every time. It has different variations on a similar theme, and it actually works. I did not think I would enjoy this show, and it certainly is not like a perfect show by any means. I don't think anybody's going to be lauding it as high art, but it's funny. It works as a comedy. It's silly. It's ridiculous. It gets the punchlines out there. It's creative, and I appreciate that.
Well, this is actually a very interesting twist, Remington. I mostly chose this one because I wanted to get a nice quick short form anime out, but as well as I thought I'd be curious to see how you'd react to the sheer zaniness of it, but I did not think you would have as high regards for it as you seem to do.
I sort of feel, in a weird way, that this is like the comedy equivalent of, I believe it was Citrus, the one I surprisingly liked.
Oh.
Was that?
Oh, no. You're thinking of Domestic Girlfriend.
Oh, God, Domestic Girlfriend. No, Citrus was awful, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the one with a lot of, sexual abuse and assault, but not delivered in an interesting way.
Oh, God, yeah, no, that one was awful. I easily get mixed up with anime. Good God, I've seen so many. Anyway, Domestic Girlfriend. I feel like this is sort of the comedic equivalent of Domestic Girlfriend, where both, on paper, would be rough sells for me. But both of them generally work, or at least how much I've seen of Domestic Girlfriend. Once again, I've heard it gets much worse. But both of them, up to the points that I've seen them, while being very sexualized shows, they actually utilize that sexuality to further. In this case, in Domestic Girlfriend, it utilizes it on a more emotional or dramatic scale and proper sexuality. This more sexual frustration, more juvenile, and for the purpose of comedy. But because the purpose isn't just, or isn't exclusively, hey boys, isn't that pretty titillating? It can actually be interesting. It can actually be engaging.
Wow, that's impressive. Care to take a guess at how highly this is rated on average?
See, this is a difficult one. I'm going to say, 7.4.
Believe it or not, Remington, you're guessing high.
Oh! Okay, that's rare. That's rare to happen. Is it in the sixes?
It is.
Wow.
6.7 is the average on Mal with about 27,000 votes.
When it's in the sixes, that's not great. For anybody who's not a frequent listener to our podcast or just not immersed into the anime world, weebs will rate anything highly. Usually 7 is good, 8 is amazing, 9 is godly. Like, that's the tier. 6 is mediocre or mixed, I would say.
For the perspective of most weebs, at least.
Which is surprising, because this is actually, like, a pretty decent comedy. Definitely has its flaws. Definitely far from perfect. However, for what it is, like, I think it succeeds.
That's impressive, honestly. Like, I'm actually really surprised that, for once, Remington, you actually have grown towards an anime that a large number of people are just not a fan of. And you know what I think the reason behind that is?
I'm excited to hear it. Psychoanalyze me, Daddy.
I can almost guarantee that the biggest reason most people dropped this show or were not interested in it were probably because of those red flags you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, no, don't get me wrong. The first episode, boy oh boy, like it shows you the spirit of the show. But it's similar to how many teachers, they will have a month of just absolutely difficult, super crazy assignments, heavy workloads, just so they can weed out anybody who's not willing to put in any of the work, and then it becomes much easier. Don't get me wrong, that sexual frustration, it is throughout the whole show, but it's able to sort of contextualize it a bit better. If you are completely against any of that, this is not your show, undeniably. Many people would put me in that category, but I still generally enjoy it. So,
well, shit, that is a very strange twist, and I'm actually kind of happy. Me personally, I wasn't the biggest fan of the show, but I did watch its completion and found enjoyment in most of the episodes, so I'm impressed, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just the fact that it's such a sweet relief compared to so much other comedy that's done in this vein. Like, I touched on this before, but I don't know if I've ever seen a genuinely funny example of the quote-unquote lucky pervert trope, or any of the related tropes, because rarely is it actually a joke. It's just fan service pretending to be funny, and that doesn't work. You can't show up to a stand-up comedy gig, show up to an open mic, and then just like open up a Playboy and be like, like, that's not.
I mean, I'll be honest, I would probably laugh.
I mean, maybe for the sheer absurdity of the fact. Like, don't get me wrong, many people are going to like the Playboy that you are showing. However, it's just not why they're there, or at least not the claimed reason why they're there. Weebs are a different beast. But nonetheless, is this show perfect? By no means. Is this show pretty solid? Yeah.
Wow, that is an interesting opinion, and arguably, I'm curious to see what kind of emails we get in response to this one. I guess, Remington, with all that being said, I guess I have one final question. Would you be interested in watching some more How Clumsy You Are, Ueno-san, with me?
Yeah, you know what, Shaun? I was very nervous. I was very skeptical that I would, especially when we started watching it. However, at the end of the day, after seeing what I have, yeah, I think I would be interested.
Sounds good to me, bud. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. If you enjoyed our deep delving banter into the weirdness of teenage romance and or lack thereof, then please, we have just a little bit of house cleaning for you. We just got,
just start that whole thing over.
Yeah, I know. I'll start
just like
over.
fantastic, and before we go, we have a little bit of house cleaning.
Yeah, I don't know why I tried to do something. Yeah.
You skipped ahead a little bit.
I've been spending the past like hour and a half shitting my guts out, man. I need something. I need a pizza or something. Jesus Christ. Okay. And before we get out of here, we just have a little bit of house cleaning we need to do. For those of you who are interested in supporting our strange endeavors, we have a Patreon filled with all kinds of lovely bonus content and interesting experiences for many to behold. And one of those bonuses that you can get on the Patreon is a shout out here on the podcast. So Remington, who are the lovely people that we need to talk about?
Well, today? Of course, I want to send all of our gratitude to our bland bitch protagonists, as well as our magical girls. And I should mention, on all these tiers, you guys, you get the greatest stuff. You get pre-banter, you get Q&A episodes, you get bonus episodes once a month, you get specialized shout-outs. All these things are possible and more. But with these shout-outs, we start off with the yandere waifus. They love us so much they're willing to murder anybody in their wake. And we start with Sarah Birch and Miles to Go, Kazu Morocco, Leos123, Hayden Lecker, Anonymous Gamer, Mick Alex, Salty Pretzel, Glenn Michael Dolan, Ross Palmer, Jacob Livingston, Xerix, H. Wood, Nico Nee, Farmer Weeb, Alexander Nasiensenyo, Shun's Mom, Andrew Rowicki, Grant Firetype, Matthew B., Devin McCutcheon, and Chris Salas. Thank you guys so much, our lovely yandere waifus. We're feeling the love just as much as we feel the tip of the knife at our throats. But above that, there is even more, because we move on over to Hogwarts itself, the land of the badgers, the griffins, the snakes, and you would think it's the ravens, but it's not actually the ravens. It's like an eagle? Is that it, Shaun? Is it an eagle?
It is eagles, yes.
Yeah, it's nonsensical. It's bullshit. But I say that as half Ravenclaw myself. It's fine. But our boy wizards, who we're very appreciative of course, we have Chase Fredette and Delina Perez. And both of you guys are the magical core. You guys are our two Horcruxes. If you die, then the podcast dies. So just an FYI on that. No pressure. But
that is, okay, I don't think
it's quite a bit of pressure. Delina, Chase, don't die, please. It's gonna be so much. It's gonna be real bad if either of them die now. No, if either of them die, now we are a suspect. So definitely don't die, Delina or Chase. But there's more, because of course, right past Hogwarts, if you squint a little, if you take the magic car a couple of left turns, you end up at the White House, the Chefino Musco tier. We put it there as a joke, and it just keeps getting bigger. And on this tier, we have Cassidy Justin. We have the patron saint him. Oh wait, we need Cassidy Justin. I'm so bad at coming up with good ones for Cassidy. I feel so bad. Shaun.
Maybe you need to cast your line somewhere a bit better.
Okay, there we go. There, I'll take it. Then we have our patron saint himself, none other than Saint. On the flip side of things, we have the almighty sinner. Then we have Zachary Shirley, who surely is just a great person for contributing so much money to us. Then we have Amoto Ahigao, which I greatly appreciate your contribution, even if I do not necessarily greatly appreciate the name. We have Take Your Damn Money Dylan, which of course, Dylan's mob connections that we've discussed previously, they forcefully give him money, and if he ever refuses to accept it, then he dies. Lots of death in this, just a heads up. You didn't think this was as deadly as a shout out as it was, but as it turns out. Then we have the touchy diplomat, a very touchy man, but you know what, or woman, who is really delegating and making those links with other nations. Then we have the Silicon Spectre, who I always want to say, I'm sure they are a very attractive individual, but Shaun prohibits me from making any sexual references about their name or about them being a sexy ghost. I'm not allowed to do that, so I'm not going to, and that is not my way of doing it without doing it, all right?
I really need to teach you the difference between silicone and silicon.
It's all the same, Shaun. Then we have Theo Noel celebrating, giving us a Merry Christmas every single day with their contribution. I also, normally we don't read off the ones that haven't come through yet, the ones that haven't been charged yet. However, I just want to call attention to questionable life decisions. You know who you are, and you have already been read on this list by a different name. You've signed up twice on this tier, and I would just strongly recommend when this episode comes out, maybe don't do that. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's very on the nose with questionable life decisions, but just don't.
We love and appreciate you, we really do, but we don't deserve that.
Don't spend $100 in a single month on us. Anyway, to absolutely every one of you, we love and appreciate you guys so much. You keep our gears going. You keep the cogs turning. You keep Dylan fed in his nice little cage. He recently got an upgraded cage. Now it's a gilded cage. It's a very pretty cage.
I even sprung for a little tiny throw pillow.
Yeah, it's the first time he's ever felt any amount of comfort in his life. He has physical comfort, still no existential comfort, but we can't help that for him.
Nah, we're not gods after all. Not yet, anyways.
But truly, thank absolutely every one of you. It means so much to us.
Yeah. And if you guys still want to support us, but you don't have the cash to do it, that's perfectly okay, because I have a perfect way for you to help us out. And that is by leaving a review on whatever platform you listen on, whether that be Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Stitcher, Spotify, or another way to help us grow is word of mouth.
And if you would like to contact us directly, whether it is for a comment, question, feedback, or recommendation, then you can either tweet us at AnimeConPod on Twitter, which I swear to God one day we'll get good at, or you can email us at animeoutofcontext@gmail.com.
What is it with you and making promises that we have a hard time keeping, Rem?
It's because I have a yearning to be better, but we don't have the ability.
We are two old men trapped in young men's bodies. It's true.
Yeah.
But that being said, thank you all guys so much for tuning in, and as always, don't fuck your sister.
Da, 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 da.